Hello everyone watching this video. It is Behruz Akhmedov, a student of XP19 at double degree program of Tashkent State University of Economics and IMC University of Applied Sciences (CREMS), is presenting a case study for crisis communication course called Navigating the Crisis Environment and Analysis of Uber's Communication Strategies. In this presentation, I'll talk about company background, that is Uber Technologies Incorporation, with providing a short information about the company itself and its history. Then I will talk about the purpose of the study and inform you about the used methodology for the conducted studies, and I will describe the crisis types faced by Uber and the company's response strategies for the period of 2014 and 2016, with providing relevant examples briefly. Then I will end up with a short summary for the whole case. So the company background. In June 2010, Travis Kalanick and Garrett Camp launched the ride-sharing app Uber. Uber was established when Kalanick and Camp wanted to find a way to lower black car services, and Uber provides a taxi alternative, allowing customers to simply tap a button to receive a ride, like you can see here in this picture. The brand name was changed to Uber since it was originally named as Uber Cab. And Uber Technologies Incorporation was operating in 58 countries in 2015, and nowadays it's more than 72, and was valued at more than $50 billion in 2015 as well. And nowadays, in the beginning of 2022, it was valued at $71 billion. Although Uber has battled rivals and regulators since its inception, this organization has successfully disrupted the market by using technology to give people what they want, from rides to food delivery, while offering individuals a flexible way to earn money. Since its creation, Uber has been involved in a variety of crises involving passenger safety, driver treatment, competition with other agencies, legal and regulatory issues, and sexist comments, which affects their reputation and foreshadows how they handle crisis situations. Some of Uber's scandals stem from negligently hiring drivers and Uber's ultra-competitive culture itself. Travis Kalanick, co-founder and CEO of Uber Technologies, has played a significant role in influencing his organization's culture, creating a risk-taking environment that encourages unconventional responses. According to Uber's business model, drivers are classified as independent contractors and work an excessive amount of hours to make ends meet. Since this organization began in 2012, Uber has been entangled in more than 173 lawsuits across the United States and numerous lawsuits abroad. Prominent cases include sexual assault, driver safety and violation of transportation, and privacy laws. And so the purpose and questions of the study. An important goal of the research was to explore how Uber responded to crisis situations during a 2-year period, that is 2014 and 2016, and how closely Uber's crisis response strategies matched crisis communication theories. And there are given 2 research questions for this study. The first one is what response strategies did Uber use when handling crisis between 2014 and 2016. The second one is to what degree did the response strategies selected by Uber match the response strategies suggested by crisis communication theories, as I just mentioned before. So here's the methodology. For this study, the researcher qualitatively analyzed 203 Uber Newsroom articles and 9 official press releases issued between October 2014 and October 2016 to explore what types of communication messages and responses the organization employed and whether a pattern of communication existed. A timeline of Uber's crisis was created, and the events were organized by crisis type. These categories emerged from analyzing various news sources and were compiled into a crisis timeline. Next, all of the company's newsroom articles and press releases during this time frame were tentatively categorized. Some of the popular categories, including lifestyle and partnerships, served as a reference point, and after categorizing the data, new categories such as new beginnings, drivers, legal and safety, and customer service emerged. Additionally, each category included subcategories. Subsequently, Uber's crises were compared with the communication messages they released before and after each crisis to better understand the company's strategies in combating these crisis situations. In the crisis timeline, the most prevalent categories were legal and safety, new beginnings, and partnerships. The crisis types are driver treatment safety, passenger safety, competition, legal and regulatory issues, surge pricing, protests, and sexist comments and ads. So here is the crisis types from Uber's timeline that was mentioned on the previous slide. So the first crisis in the period in this 2 years period was in November 17, 2014 when Senior Vice President Emil Michael talked about conducting opposition research to dig up embarrassing information about journalists who write stories unflattering to the company. Then the second crisis was in December 2014, related to passenger safety, when Boston Uber driver was accused of kidnapping and raping a woman. After this, one day later, in 2014, December 8th, the Uber company was banned by Spain and Thailand due to unfair competition. And then later in 2015, in February, a breach of driver data, about 50,000 names and licenses were compromised by a third party when hackers attacked the Uber's database. Then in summer 2015, there were some protests. For example, violence occurred in France as taxi drivers and supporters protested against Uber. Later, in autumn 2015, that was a surge pricing crisis. For example, during the Paris attacks in summer, rumors spread that Uber continued using surge pricing. However, this feature was removed about 30 minutes after the attacks, and drivers gave free rides as a protest, of course. Then in February 2016, again the passenger safety that was 2 years before was a crisis for Uber. For example, Kalamazoo Uber drivers killed 6 people there. Then we are ending up with the last crisis in 2016 in the given period for us in this case, related to regulatory issues. It was a settlement in California for Uber. So now I will talk about emergent themes from Uber's newsroom articles and press releases. Overall, Uber responded to crisis situations by describing drivers, partnership, lifestyle, and customer service, and new beginnings, and the legal safety. The last three one will be described on this next slide. And here we can see the partnership expansion, and I will describe it in more detail. So in December 2014, Uber focused how during the past year they expanded from 60 cities to 250 cities worldwide. This emphasis drew attention from when Uber was banned in Thailand and Spain a week later. Similarly, Uber responded with lifestyle content that demonstrated that they are a socially responsible organization that generously supplies food to local communities. Here we can see customer service and with some relevant examples and new beginnings and legal and safety. Here I'm going to talk about new beginnings. Similarly, in December 2014, surge pricing was enacted after a terrorist attack in Sydney occurred. Once this happened, customers were outraged, and although Uber eventually responded on Twitter, there was no direct response in their newsroom articles and official press releases. Instead, Uber focused on how they are positively making difference back home by referencing lifestyle and partnership issues, such as how Uber was working within a local community to raise funds to end children's hunger. Additionally, Uber teamed up with Mothers Against Drunk Driver organization to combat drunk driving during the holiday season. Then legal and safety. In February 2015, there was a breach of driver data and approximately 50,000 names and licenses may have been comprised by a third party, as I mentioned when I was talking about the timeline of crisis. So Uber underplayed the seriousness of the legal and safety issue by focusing on how they are successfully expanding their organization along the Colombian coast to aiding in progress and development. Around this time, they released a new magazine about Uber partners, highlighting how their drivers have positive job experience and the flexibility to personalize their work. And let's talk about transparency as a part of new beginnings. Uber released a New Year's Eve ride guide on December 21 in 2015 to prepare clients with information about holiday safety and surge pricing to reduce potential crises and get ahead of the situation. However, due to the nature of the situation, customers still voiced their complaints on Instagram and Twitter. Forewarning customers demonstrates how Uber is making an effort to improve their reputation. Also, in February 2016, an Uber driver in Kalamazoo, Michigan, randomly killed 6 individuals and injured several others in between working for Uber. I also talked about this case in the timeline. So Uber directly addressed this crisis by expressing concern and coordinating with authorities, but didn't take responsibility for the men's actions on behalf of the organization. This first of all demonstrates how Uber is distancing themselves from the crisis and how having drivers be independent contractors allows their organization to legally be in the clear, although ethical concerns exist. Uber also demonstrated transparency after the April 2016 settlement in San Francisco and the Los Angeles district attorneys, where Uber agreed to pay $10 million, modify advertising, clarify ride sharing at airports, and continue to work with the California Division of Measurement Standards, that is DMS. And this details how this of course details how Uber is attempting to be more transparent in hopes of gaining the trust of their stakeholders. So now let me get into the innovation. So there are several cases of alignment between Uber's content, that is newsroom articles and official press releases, and the crisis timeline. For example, Uber addressed topics such as innovation and transparency, categorized under new beginnings, which demonstrates how they strive to take greater responsibility for their actions and desire to improve their reputation among stakeholders. For instance, a new Newsroom article released on November 13, 2015 detailed how Uber would streamline the entire Uber customer experience by allowing users to request a ride through other apps. This focus on how Uber is continuing to be innovative with their services. That is also regards the new beginnings. The same day, rumors spread that during the Paris attacks, Uber continued using surge pricing. However, this feature was removed about 30 minutes after the attacks had occurred, as I mentioned before, and many drivers gave free rides. This demonstrates that although Uber was transparent with their customers, many individuals still perceived that Uber didn't have their best interest due to how they responded to surge pricing in previous emergency situations, such as New York City Hurricane Sandy in 2012. So now we reached the summary of the study. Major findings include that Uber indirectly responded to crisis by describing current partnerships and the lifestyle activities they implement to build relationships with stakeholders. Findings also suggest that Uber implemented denial and reducing offensiveness to minimize the extent of the crisis situations. It's significant that Uber responds to crisis in an unconventional manner because most organizations take significant actions to protect stakeholders from physical and psychological harm. However, because Uber drivers are considered independent contractors, Uber has minimal incentive to take responsibility for crisis situations, and especially surrounding legal and safety issues. With the increased need to display corporate social responsibility, Uber may suffer reputational damage in the long run if they fail to provide thorough physical and care responses for their stakeholders. Also, responding to crisis by diverting attention to partnerships, lifestyle activities, and new beginnings demonstrates that Uber is taking less responsibility that is socially acceptable for an organization to take, but because Uber is a startup, it's breaking the rules of standard communication and standard corporate communication, which could potentially set a trend for other startup companies to behave. Additionally, implementing denial and reducing offensiveness demonstrates how Uber is distancing themselves from crisis situations. Perhaps these strategies are commonly used because Uber has expanded so fast since its inception and only has the capabilities to respond to the most serious crisis. Also denying the crisis allowed Uber to promote other areas such as lifestyle, partnerships, and new beginnings. And denying the crisis, if innocent, can be a successful crisis response strategy. However, Uber is responsible for several of the crises described earlier. And this is the end of my presentation for the given topic, and thank you very much for your attention and time for watching this video.